Hello, third graders. Today we're going to be observing the plants from the seeds that I planted last Wednesday. And so we are going to make some different observations about the plants. For this lesson, if you want to follow along with me, you need a piece of paper and a pencil. If you want to just watch the video and then do some observing after the video with some plants at your house, that's totally fine. You can watch me make some observations and learn how to do it and then make your own observations. So one of the things we learned at the beginning of the year in third grade was that to make an observation, you can do 5 things. You can look, touch, listen, smell, and taste. And in Science Lab, we never taste. But the other 4 are things that we can sometimes do. Now, with observing plants, you're mostly going to be using your sense of sight, looking, but you also can use your sense of touch and just touch very gently to see the texture or what something feels like. Those are the 2 senses that'll be really important when you're observing plants. Now, today, I'm going to ask you to make your own plant journal. You can write about the plants I'm showing you on this video, or you can learn how to make observations and then make your own plant journal about a plant you're growing at your house or in your garden. You can start today, or even if that plant has started growing already, or even if it's a full-grown plant, you can still observe that. It doesn't have to be from a seed the way that I'm doing, although it can be. You can observe any plants, but try to observe it for every day for a week and notice how the plant changes and how the plant grows. All right, so first I'm going to show you day 1 of our plants. So last Wednesday, you watched as I planted those Wisconsin fast plant seeds, and I'm going to show you the video first of what happened. Hi, third graders. It's day 1 after planting. So we planted these seeds here at my house about 24 hours ago, and you can see really nothing is happening yet. But we actually know that even though we don't see anything happening, there is something happening. What you have to think about is that these seeds have been actually soaking in soil with water for about 24 hours. And we know what seeds look like after they soak for 24 hours. So you guys should be picturing that these seeds are getting soft and moist and wet, and pretty soon they're going to be splitting open so that the leaf can come out. The first thing we know that will happen is that the roots will grow down and then the seed will go up. But so far at the surface, we can't see anything yet. We'll check back tomorrow. Okay, so in my plant journal, I would record something for day 1 because I want to keep track of how long the plants are growing. So I put day 1. It's really important to include the date, May 28th, 2020. I actually drew a picture of the setup that I have. You might want to draw a picture of your plant sitting on a windowsill or of your garden. And when you draw that, you want to diagram it. Like I drew a diagram. I labeled this water. I labeled this my planter. I could have labeled these the lights. And then I drew that quad that you see right there. I call it a quad planter because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And I just colored it in brown to show the dirt because there's nothing growing yet. And for observations, I put no changes observed. I can't see the plants growing yet. And so that's what I recorded for observations on this day. I also could have felt the soil and made an observation about what the soil felt like. But pretty much that's all I can do on day 1. So let's see what happened on day 2. This was day 2, May 29th. Let's see what happens. Hello, third graders. It's day 2 of growing, and we have a sprout. So right here, you can see that one of the plants has started to come up, and right there. And then there's another one over here and a teeny tiny little bit of green showing there. This one, you can kind of see a few little places where the seeds are starting to break open. So kind of cool. So those are our Wisconsin fast plants. And over here, we planted some sunflowers. And I can start to see the seeds right there and right there are starting to come up. And here, lettuce think I might even see a little bit of lettuce sprouts coming up right there. There. So this is on day 2. There are pumpkin seeds. I can also see the seeds starting to open up, and the leaves will start coming out there. And we planted some beans, but I don't see any bean sprouts yet. So those, remember what is happening. Those beans, they probably take a little longer, and they're nice and wet and moist. It's been 2 days. So probably the seeds are starting to send roots down, but we don't see any of the shoots coming up yet. All right, so here, I'm going to take one more look at your Wisconsin fast plants. Those are the fastest, so you can see they've grown the most so far. All right, we'll check in again tomorrow. So this is day 2. Okay, so for day 2, this is my observation. Now, I am showing you the plants because I planted different seeds so you could compare. So you might want to draw a diagram and keep a plant journal of the bean seeds that I planted or of the pumpkin seeds that I planted. I'm going to do the Wisconsin fast plant. So that's what I have here. Or like I said, you could be doing something at home. So here I wrote day 2. I put the date, May 29th, 2020. I drew this from looking down on the quad planter, and I drew that 3 little plants were growing. I labeled my diagram with leaves, soil, and shoots. My observation was the seeds have sprouted, and I can see shoots with small green leaves. There are 2 small leaves on each plant, and the leaves look like they have 2 sections. The soil still feels moist and soft. So that was my observation for day 2. Let's see what happened on day 3. Hello, 3rd graders. It is day 3, and look at our plants. They're growing so much. Now, if you were at school, you would be keeping a log of daily observations. And so today you would have a lot to observe. You would talk about how you can see the green leaves. You would count that each plant has 2 green leaves and that the leaves are kind of split into 2 parts. You would actually have a ruler and you would measure how tall the plant is growing. Now, I have a ruler here, but I can't find a ruler with centimeters at my house, so I have to measure with inches. You probably would measure in centimeters, but you can see that this plant is about 3/4 of an inch. I have another one over here that's a little under 3/4 of an inch. There's a teeny one growing right next to it that's about 1/4 inch. And so you would write down all these observations in your journal. The soil is nice and moist from our capillary wicking system. There's another view of the plants so you can see how they're growing. And we have quite a few growing in each of the little quad planters. So these are the Wisconsin fast plants that I planted, but then you can see sunflowers are sprouting, and we've got some lettuce. The pumpkins are just starting. You can see the seeds there, but they're not as far along as the other plants. And I don't see any beans yet. Still waiting for those. All right, so here's day 3. Okay, so a lot happened on day 3, and you can see my drawing looks a lot different. And I actually this time included the measurements as part of my label. And so I measured 3 of the plants, so I labeled those measurements. For my observations, today I didn't write a paragraph, I made a list. Plants are growing taller, leaves are getting bigger, the soil is moist and soft. So those are my 3 observations for day 3, May 30th. All right, let's see what happened on day 4. Hello, 3rd graders. It is day 4, and our plants are growing so much. You can see that they look taller and stronger. I can pull this one out and show you some measurements like I did yesterday. So you can see that this tall one, it has grown to be about almost 1.5, in between 1.25 and 1.5 inches. This one that's next to it that's a little bit shorter is about almost 1 inch. I have another tall one here that looks at 1.5 inches, if you can see that. So these are our Wisconsin fast plants, and they are growing really fast. You can see, like, we still have some little teeny ones there and there. These two are the biggest. So those look good. Over here, you can see the sunflowers have grown a lot. You can observe the big green leaves, and you can see how these plants look different than the Wisconsin fast plants. Here's lettuce. It even has a different look. Our pumpkin seeds are growing. I think this one's kind of neat. It has like the dirt with it up with the seed. But you can still see the seed here. This one's swollen. You can see how the leaves are growing. Here's one that's just emerging. So pretty cool. And then our beans have sprouted. They grew really, like, it took a couple days before they germinated, but once they did, they're like the tallest ones that we have. And you can see, like, so these are standing straight up, but these ones over here are just unfolding, and then tomorrow probably this will be standing straight up like the other ones. So pretty cool. They're doing well. All right, so this is day 4 of our planting. Okay, so now for my journal, I drew the pictures again. I included the measurements, and my observations were for today. The plants grew a lot. One plant went from 3/4 inch to 1.5 inches, which is double. Another one of the plants grew from 1/4 inch yesterday to 1 inch today, which is 3/4 inch growth. The leaves still look green, and there are 2 leaves on each plant. The stems are much longer. The soil is still moist and soft. All right, here's my last day that I recorded for you. This is day 5, June 1st. And let's see what happened on June 1st. Hi, third graders. Our plants are getting even bigger. Today is day 5, and we're going to take a look at the same quad that we've been looking at, and you can see now there are actually plants growing in every single section. This one is really tiny. This one is so tall. This one has 1, 2, and a third one starting, and this one has 1, 2, 2 plants growing really close together side by side. Oh, you see that? 2 plants growing really close side by side. So I'm going to measure a couple of these. This tallest one over here is now 2 inches tall, and this one is about 1 3/4, and the small one next to it is about 1 1/4 inch tall. And you can see that now they're starting to change. Do you see how the top of the stem is splitting into 2 sections, and the leaves are at the end of each of those sections? When I feel the soil, it's still moist from our watering system. So these plants are doing really well. So is the other quad that we were building. Over here, you can check out how tall the sunflowers are getting. We've got lettuce growing in each of our sections. The pumpkins are coming along. I still think this pumpkin is really cool, how it has the seed still attached, the seed coat. And then the beans, which were the last to start germinating, are now the tallest of all of my plants. You want to see them all, which is really cool. And a very interesting thing to have happen, because those were the last to germinate. You can also see they have the biggest green leaves. All right, I hope you're having fun observing your own plants at home or writing observations about our plants here. Okay, and then for my last day of observations, I drew the pictures. I included the different inches that I measured, and I wrote these. There are plants growing in every section of the quad planter. Some of the plants are very tall, and some seeds just germinated. The tallest plants now have their stem branching into 2 sections. The soil is moist and soft. Now, at this point, I'm all done. Those are my videos. There's nothing to submit for today's lesson. If you would like to send me a picture of your plant observation, I would love to see it. You can share it with me or email it to me at lsherman@mahonison.org. When you finish watching this video, you can mark this lesson as done. If you want to observe any of the plants and the video went too fast for you, you can rewind and pause it at the different places where you'd like to and write about the plants that I showed you in this video. And like I said, you could do the Wisconsin fast plant, you could do the beans, you could do the pumpkins, or you can observe a plant at your house or in your garden. All right, have fun observing your plants.